and welcome to this special edition of Regional Directors in Conversation. I'm delighted to be kicking off this series with my friend and colleague Dan Hermes, and today we're going to talk about the topic of how can we help our businesses to do better with artificial intelligence. So how can artificial intelligence help business leaders with their business? And I'm delighted to have my guest Dan Hermes here with me today. And Dan, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen, and it's a pleasure to be on with you. I have been working in the mobile application development space for 5 or 6 years, helping companies to bring their apps to the app stores. And then over the years, as that has happened more and more, it's the smart companies are finding ways to make those apps smarter. And the way they're doing that is by combining machine learning with big data into something that some of us call AI. And so it's a general term that encompasses a lot of different interesting things. But the bottom line is that this technology is designed to help businesses choose their key decisions and make those decisions more quickly and more efficiently.
That's interesting because we're hearing a lot in the industry about artificial intelligence. And I wonder, do you think it will bring about a new kind of business?
Eventually it may, but first, it'll help us to do our existing business better.
All right, that's interesting. And how do you think artificial intelligence is going to help businesses to do existing business better? How do you think they'll move forward from that point with AI?
Well, we're parsing the business decisions within each business process and determining which ones are best modeled by machine learning. Then we use machine learning to make those decisions faster and better. The first step in any new technology is always helping us do the things we already do, but better. And any decision that a business makes, AI may be able to help it make it more efficiently and accurately. And here are some of those types of decisions. I'm talking about like supply chain, logistics, human resourcing, expert assistance like doctors making diagnoses, customer relationship management, CRM, customer profiling and preferences like the way Amazon and Netflix work, forecasting, say inventory, and optimization of just about anything.
Wow, that's quite a list and a lot of real-world broad examples there. I wondered if you had a really specific real-world example.
Absolutely. So take insurance claims, for instance, because those model well. A customer submits a claim, then the customer has to wait for the adjuster to get through their stack of claims and reach theirs. When the adjuster reviews the claim, they follow policies, but the ultimate decision lies with the adjuster. Give the claim to a well-trained AI, and the company policies and actuarial tables are internalized by the AI, so the claim can be processed in a minimal period of time. If the AI requires human interaction, it asks for it, but otherwise, machine learning can process many insurance claims on its own.
That's interesting to hear the application to insurance. And I wondered about something that people can see, something more tangible, for example, products.
Sure. Inventory is an area AI can improve our bottom lines. By modeling supply chains, buying seasons, warehousing patterns, and customer habits, AI can make an educated buy recommendation to our corporate buyers. We can reduce unused merchandise in warehouses and product shortages when there's a demand. These things can be accurately modeled. In short, we can create supply chains that are more attenuated to the demands of the market than ever before.
It sounds very interesting to me. It sounds like we are making everything move faster. And I wondered, what do you think about whether artificial intelligence is really about helping us to solve old problems more effectively?
That's exactly where we're starting.
Yes, I wondered what industries you see using artificial intelligence in your experience.
The question is which ones aren't. Here's a few that I know of. Finance, healthcare, biotech, media and entertainment, transportation, e-commerce, manufacturing, and on and on.
Yeah, because it seems to me, I think some people misunderstand artificial intelligence. They start to think about Terminator and Skynet and the sort of Hollywood interpretation of artificial intelligence. But I wonder if we could dive more deeply into what AI actually does. So, for example, how does artificial intelligence actually learn?
That's a really good question. Machine learning builds models using three approaches: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. It's a lot how you teach young ones. With supervised learning, you have an algorithm that learns from example data and target responses, like kids in grade school working with set data sets that we know what kinds of decisions need to come out of those and what data sets that we need to handle those kids in order to teach them the types of things that we'd like to teach them. This data might include, in the case of the MLs, numeric values or string labels such as classes or tags. Later, when we were posed with new examples, ML can predict the correct response. Now, in unsupervised learning, the second one, ML learns from examples without any associated response. That is, the algorithm determines the data patterns on its own and determines its own results. Reinforcement learning, here's where we know what the outcome of the decision should be, and we need to train the ML how to assess certain situations and then choose those outcomes based upon different kinds of data. And so the ML is trained to make specific decisions from the environment. In this way, the machine captures the best possible knowledge to make accurate decisions.
That's a really good explanation, thank you. It's nice to hear it broken down like that, because I think artificial intelligence can be quite a confusing term for people. So with that in mind, how does artificial intelligence actually use that learning to benefit businesses?
AI applies those models to the business decisions at hand, like buy versus sell, schedule now versus defer, deplete stores versus restock, approve or deny, etc. If the AI can match the scenario to an appropriate model, then it employs the model to make a recommendation or decision.
Yeah, because I think one of the really interesting things about artificial intelligence is watching what the big tech companies are doing with it. And I think it's really inspiring for other organizations. So I wondered what you see in the industry in terms of what some of the big companies are doing with artificial intelligence.
Well, one we use every day is Google Maps, which locates the fastest routes based on past traffic patterns and current conditions. It predicts when, where, and how difficult finding an empty parking spot will be, depending upon dispersion of spots in some areas, in some systems. Netflix, which we all use, gives personalized recommendations of movies and shows. It's generating a series of movie banners, designs, and artworks, and then it analyzes each movie title screen and tests the images among the communities to see which one of those title screen images works best and allows people to respond positively to the movie before they pick it. And it also picks the best images based upon this reinforcement learning. eBay has a fantastic chatbot called ShopBot that helps us understand what users are looking for. It processes their text messages and images and finds the best match. It has excellent contextual understanding and friendly language. Competitors' users tend to ask more questions about products than on eBay.
Oh, that's interesting. Just to dive into the terminology a little bit, because I think sometimes people can get very confused over what AI means and what a chatbot actually is. So I wondered to come back to ShopBot just as an example. What is a chatbot, and really what does it have to do with artificial intelligence?
That's a good question. I wondered myself for a long time. I couldn't really see the relationship. But in a nutshell, a chatbot is a language interface to an AI. Chatbots give us a text box in which to type our questions in natural language, and then the AI will attempt to understand our meaning and respond to it intelligently and productively. The key word here is attempt, because it doesn't always happen. We type in a tough question only to be met with a page of boilerplate support tips and links. Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's where AI comes in. Interpretation of our natural language is the beginning of giving a useful response. What's the best case for my iPhone? Say we're shopping, for example. This might prompt a series of questions from the chatbot to determine what kind of iPhone we have and what our taste in cases might be. All this could result in a response. Invisible Armor by Scratchless and the Phone Sock by Hangups look like good options. Would you like to see some? Why, I certainly would. This could be a good chatbot.
So the chatbot is really doing a number of things. It's, as you said earlier, improving that process, particularly with search. Personally, I really get fed up searching for things. And I guess it's an important aspect of customer service. But then that starts to raise the question about the impact of that on people's jobs. And I wondered what your thought was in terms of whether artificial intelligence will actually replace employees.
They already are, but not yet at a fast pace. Certain tasks, like processing insurance claims, lend themselves well to machine learning, while many other tasks are still too complex to be handled by a machine alone. This is leading us into the age of AI-aided decisions, or expert assistance.
That's an interesting point, actually, and I wondered whether computers haven't they aided decisions for a long time now already?
Absolutely. Computers have given us reports and data and knowledge-based systems. These have assisted in business decisions for years. Eventually, however, most major business decisions will be accompanied by a suggestion program born of an AI that has models of many situations relevant to the decision at hand. Doctors have AIs recommending and aiding diagnoses. Stockbrokers are guided by AIs modeling the market. In these cases of AI-aided decisions, the AI reaches its own conclusions, but the business decision is typically left to the human being, which is why it's called expert assistance and not fully automated.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on your perspective, because I'm personally okay with my doctor making the final call.
Some people feel that way, but not everybody is in all industries. Index funds, for example, have emerged as funds that are entirely automated models of certain segments of the market. This is an example of AIs running the show. A NASDAQ index fund, for example, contains a representative investment of NASDAQ stocks and is adjusted accordingly and proportionally each time the NASDAQ changes in volume or value. This is a broker and manager-free experience where you're trusting an automated manager AI to handle your investments for you according to a specified set of requirements.
And that's interesting because we've had some examples now of insurance in the stock market, and it seems that when we think about artificial intelligence, we're thinking a lot about data and numbers and text with artificial intelligence. But I wondered on your take about physical things and how the area of physical things is impacted by artificial intelligence.
Some of the most interesting areas to me in artificial intelligence have to do with objects that are moving in space, and companies like Boston Dynamics are making tremendous strides in modeling the movement of living creatures. Humans, such as soldiers, gymnasts, acrobats, and others with extraordinary physical abilities, are being modeled and embedded in robots containing an AI that can employ the models to move and do tasks. Robots in the form of animals, such as dogs and wolves, are also in testing and production. Much of this appears to be DoD funded. They're creating an army of robot AI warfighters. The ethical considerations in projects like these are substantial. Do we give these robots a gun? Similar physical AIs can be found at amusement parks, such as Disney. There are Marvel-inspired trapeze artist robots working without wires, but with nets, that catapult into the sky, do flips, and then strike superhero poses before plunging down into the net again to bounce up and do it again. These AIs model human circus artists sporting bodies that can fly through the air with the greatest of ease, better than most of us. But these are specialized machines. You wouldn't want one of these to try and make you an omelet. And of course there are AIs in many types of robots, building cars, baking cookies, mixing chemical solutions, surveying land, and working in Amazon warehouses. Instead of a set of specific commands for a robot to obey, these are more sophisticated machines, and they're employing models to help determine their behavior, which is a lot more like the way humans do tasks.
That's interesting, because with that in mind, do you think we should be concerned about a Terminator-like scenario where the machines take over?
Well, we shouldn't rule it out. Experts tell us. So caution as we go. It is the best course. It's apparently not likely that a machine will become self-aware and plot an AI coup. It's far more likely that an AI in, say, a paperclip factory will be a bit too creative in its quest to manufacture paperclips. It may, say, decide to tap into local bank systems to acquire funds to help it to make paperclips. It might remove some humans from a warehouse that it has repurposed for paperclip making functions without notifying those humans and without giving them warning to defend themselves as it removes them to the recycling facility, for instance. Such an unhinged manufacturing AI may decide to clone itself into 10 major cities and set up new offices, or at least try, acquiring office and warehouse space with funds it borrowed from banks, hiring real employees, and setting up other AIs to oversee business processes and paperclip production. This is a nightmare scenario, no doubt, but without the proper checks on AI behavior, giving them substantial abilities is bound to lead to some interesting scenarios, ones we need to try and anticipate and avoid.
That makes a lot of sense. I remember reading recently, if we really want to defeat computers, we should get them to form committees. That would really do them in.
It certainly would.
But it's on a more serious note, these are some of the risks that's very much worth noting around artificial intelligence. But with the risks in mind, there must be some benefits as well, because we hear the whole industry talking a lot about artificial intelligence. So with that in mind, what sort of benefits can we expect from modelling, do you think?
Well, there are two types of supervised machine learning tasks: predicting values, which is called regression, and then predicting classes of items, or classification. Regression is the one that will give us an estimate of units to buy that quarter, and classifications will look at a conveyor belt full of products and tell us what's what.
That's interesting, but in terms of creating and training those models, what do you recommend that we need to look out for?
Training a machine learning model is as much as an art as it is a science. You want enough data, but not too much. You want to be certain that the training data applies to the specific types of scenarios you're interested in. The data can be copious, but flawed. It can be missing key elements, and having elements irrelevant to the task at hand. If you train your model too much, it becomes too specialized in particular situations. This is called overfitting. If you don't train it enough, well, the model may not be sufficiently accurate, and that is underfitting.
That's interesting, and coming back to our original theme of helping businesses to really help lift the bottom line using artificial intelligence and improve the existing business processes, how do you think people should get started in terms of the technology? So what technologies are data scientists really using to build these models?
A lot of data scientists forego a fancy framework in lieu of a sleek IDE with a simple language. The most popular for getting started these days is TensorFlow and scikit-learn using Python. Enterprise environments might require more industrial strength options, such as IBM Watson or Azure Machine Learning.
So I hear people sometimes confuse the modelling terminologies with the technology, and I recognise it's a very new area for many businesses. So one term that keeps popping up now and again is neural network. And I think sometimes people equate neural networks with artificial intelligence. But I wondered if we could explore that in more detail. So what is a neural network, and how is that different from regular machine learning?
Neural networks, they're for machine learning too, but they're a way of storing the data in a form that looks like neurons in the human brain. Connections, axons, synapses, impulses between neurons, these sorts of things. These constructs are called artificial neural networks, or ANNs, ANN. This is supposed to bring the end result a little bit closer to the human brain and how it works, emulating our own organic logic units. Data scientists often are building ANNs with Keras, an API for building and training neural networks. ANNs are at the core of deep learning.
That's another term that keeps popping up now and again, the term deep learning. What actually is deep learning?
ANNs bring about a multi-layered approach to modeling, leading us to think of the models as deep. And then we describe the training process of these deep networks as deep learning. Neural networks with many layers are called deep neural networks, or DNNs. So DNNs in deep learning have to do with the scale of the ANNs. Larger multi-level ANNs are DNNs and require deep learning to get them there. Deep learning powers such feats as the classification of billions of images in Google Images, Apple Siri's speech recognition, and the world champion Go player DeepMind's AlphaGo.
That's a really interesting point, and it seems almost inspirational what the large organisations are doing with artificial intelligence. But in terms of the smaller business, How do they get started with artificial intelligence in their business, and what attitude and what approach do you think is important in order to drive adoption of artificial intelligence within the business?
Sure. Some careful thought, creative experimentation, and diligent work could make businesses even smarter.
That's interesting. It's almost like people need AI attitude, creativity, diligence, and resilience to work smart. And what do you think they should do in order to take that very first step? What do you think they should look at?
Well, first you're going to need to look at your business processes. Identify the ones where decisions are challenging. Ask yourself why the challenges. If the answer is that the historical data is too complex to derive knowledge from, then this could be a good candidate for machine learning. Also, well-documented decision-making processes can sometimes be good candidates for machine learning using reinforcement learning. You'll need to identify which of these processes lend themselves best to modeling. Here you'll need an educated review of your business processes and possibly some test modeling to determine if improvements can be made using AI. Not all problems can be solved this way, and finding ones that can requires initiative, commitment, and expertise. In a nutshell, make a list of your top processes you'd like to consider improving upon, then engage some data scientists or AI professionals to help you review your options.
That's great, thank you very much, and thank you very much to everyone for joining us today on this session. I've really enjoyed our conversation with Dan, and I'd like to say thank you, Dan, very much for joining us. And with that, you've got Dan's contact details to find out more, and we look forward to having you along in another session at another time, Dan. Thank you very much.